With day 1000 behind us, today we're starting a new chapter in our forever world, where we'll connect this future harbor region in our city to this lake area. And we're going to do that by building a giant, gorgeous river winding through the landscape. For the past 1000 days, I've been laying the foundations of our forever world by reaching a series of milestones. But building this river will mark the start of chapter 2, our second 1000 days in this world, in which I'm hoping to start building a massive capital city here in the plains. So let's get started, and this is quite a massive project as the first phase requires me to dig out over 100,000 blocks. And during my last video where I unlocked the end, I had about 40 to 50 in-game days I needed to fill, so I've actually already started this project. First, I spent a bit over an hour gathering ancient debris in the depths of the nether, with the gunpowder from my brand new gunpowder farm and about 60 stacks of sand I gathered from the desert. All that debris turned into 27 netherite ingots, which in turn turned into an entire shulker box of netherite tools. With tools acquired and a somewhat improved XP farm with the gunpowder farm, I got to work clearing out the first section of terrain right next to the bridge by the monastery. I started with this section as I wanted to complete up the sugarcane farm exterior and needed to remove some blocks for that. With my two projects I wanted done before the end, I found myself on day 960, which meant I spent pretty much the next 35 days clearing terrain. First, 3 hours of straight digging to clear away about 50,000 blocks, edging ourselves closer and closer to the city. Those 3 hours, however, means my tools are completely broken. Well, the few I was able to enchant with the limited emerald supply I've got. So I've headed over to the creeper farm to get them all repaired back up to full health. Which, with that done, I was still not quite at day 1000, so I spent another 10 in-game days or so clearing away even more terrain on the river project. Which brings us up to present time. I've got myself an elytra and shulker boxes. And there was a second reason I stopped where I did, since I ran out of beacon range, so cleared away only the dirt and grass, but getting a second haste 2 beacon built up, so that I can get back from what was merely a small break from the digging, as right back at it, finishing off the section I started right before I headed to the end to clear the dragon and achieve the endgame items on the outer islands. Which is looking really quite bare, so switching mode a little bit and grabbing some of the thousands of grass I've mined and placing it back down to at least cover up some of the stone. Are making some great progress on the dig here, but I've ran into a slight problem. I need to extend back this side even more, and I do need to do some digging over in this area. I could move one of the beacons over here temporarily. I don't really feel like it, and you know, more beacons is never a bad thing, especially now that we have the elytra. So let's head off where we can pop on through the portal into the nether, where I can spend the next little while killing wither skeletons to get 3 brand new wither skeleton skulls for our third beacon in this world. Only took about 40 minutes. Moving over to the end, I've already killed 2 withers without cheesing it, but not for this one. Instead, trapping it underneath the end portal, bringing its health down with my Smite 5 axe that has Smite for just this exact reason. Where, having crafted up our beacon, we can get our beacon base built up to fill the final gap in coverage across the current river. All to clear out a small section right next to the bridge, but also spending some time making the entire river just that little bit wider. Hopefully I can make this into somewhat of a good depth as well with this, which already is looking quite good. But we aren't quite done yet, as I would like to stretch this river just a little bit further to where I want to bring in a second bridge crossing over into the farming region, starting with the sloping plains leading up to just that. Then for the main section, clearing away this larger chunk all the way down to the water level in another 30 minutes. Considering I started this dig around day 950, I've been digging for nearly 75 days at this point. We have done a lot of digging, and as much as I want to say, hey, let's go do something other than digging, there's this final section. So I need to connect this river up to this river, which luckily doesn't involve a lot of digging. A small section I'm able to smash through in about 15 minutes. And with this final section dug back, brought in some dirt, that should be perfect for us bringing that stream on down to the actual river. And well, the river does have to go even further in this direction, but I don't really want to focus on this part just yet because I do need to do a bit more work figuring out where the city's going to go before I start bringing it over that way. So that's going to be a future project, and you know what, it saves me the digging. I'm not going to be upset because I've mined about 83,000 blocks with a pickaxe, add on the 52,000 from a shovel, and we're looking at almost 135,000 blocks cleared just for this. And you know, we haven't even started digging on the river yet. Yay! So that's gonna be fun. Now, before we can do material gathering, I've got a slight issue. I gathered up about 60 shulker boxes in the previous episode, and well, I've filled all of those shulker boxes, and especially this one with coal. Anyways, I have so many resources, and I need more shulker boxes. I don't really have a shulker shell goal in mind, but I'd like to spend at least 2 hours flying around cities and gathering as many shulker boxes as possible. I do have the double shulker shell data pack installed, as I don't love end busting, but I also don't want a shulker farm, as then there is literally no reason for me to go through the outer islands. Managed to get another stack, bringing us up to 18 stacks of shulker shells, but let's head back to the old world, where I spent the remaining hour and a bit of that stream running around the world and gathering up every single block I've left at old projects. And well, some of these are even full that I can just take away. And yeah, I've created a shulker monster. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it. Or at least I'm able to clear away some of these already because they were just completely full with resources. And yeah, I've already started compacting some resources inside of here, as I have a lot of blocks from all the digging I've been doing in this world so far. And well, now I can actually store it in my storage until we get our proper stone storage setup, which is a project I do want to tackle soon. But look at all this dirt and grass. Oh, that is amazing. This out here, yeah, I don't really want to. No, I'm good actually. Let's instead do some material gathering. First to the riverside to just grab a few of the resources we've gathered just by digging out the area. And doing that cool big master builder thing and laying a block next to the shulker, which wasn't a lot of resources, so back to the starter base we go for some crafting and gathering, which luckily I've got 35 shulkers of varying resources right outside my front door conveniently. Which also isn't quite everything on my list, such as pale oak, so heading up the hill to get that sorted. Where next I'm flying out past my fishing village, where I need to stock up on more acacia logs for the cliffs, as the bark is a really nice shade of grey that works great with stone blocks. And the reason I'm clearing out the savanna, you might ask, well, a couple of the trees are still visible from the village and I'd like them gone. And there is a second reason, as this is on the way out to the mangrove swamp, where we are making a river after all, and something that will make that look so much better is a mud-covered riverbed. Not only does it being a solid color make it look nicer, but the darker color of mud also gives it an illusion of being deeper than it actually is, saving me time having to dig. Moving ourselves back home, I've got a few final resources to cross off my list. First off, some pale moss down in my moss hole. Then, to get started on our brightest blocks, I am flying down to the lake, as squid spawn here, and I need my hands on ink to create light gray dye to craft into a bunch of light gray concrete. With that done, our second light block in form of light gray wool from the wool farm, which leaves us with just a single resource left, some basalt, which I can quickly grab up from the basalt delta close to my nether portal in the nether. Back in the overworld, grabbed my shulkers and flew down to the river edge to get them placed out. Got all the resources over by the river now. And look at me being super cool with all the blocks on the sides. Oh, I don't even have that many blocks, so maybe it's not even worth it. I guess there is only one way to find out if it's helpful, which is getting to work building up the first section of our cliffs. Going to focus on this one smaller area between the balcony level, between the two segments and river's edge. Okay, first wall in. Oh, that's looking really good already. It's just this tiny little bit down here. There's so much left to do. And mobs keep coming out of this cave, which I feel like I should really do something with this. Is it any bit. Ooh. Does that happen to connect up to this? Oh, yeah, it does. Oh, interesting. Could be a back entrance into my quarry, actually. I am getting carried away. Whenever I do bigger terraforming projects, I do like to at least once bring you behind the scenes, where I planned this entire river out in a creative world beforehand, and I'm using a mod called Lighmatica to help me bring it into the forever world. Think of it as a bunch of screenshots just straight up built into the world. Where I've now also got this little rock built up. But we aren't finished, as we are now onto the largest section of this cliff face. It becomes quite clear how I've shaped and shaded this, as I've added some natural erosion channels along the cliffs, which I've built up with a lot of our darker blocks to help create an artificial shadow and really sell that depth in the cliff. And there we have it, the south-facing cliff face. Just got to texture up this old section, which is quite a painstaking process of first removing the outermost layer of stone across all of the cliff, before laying our pickaxe aside and grabbing our blocks to build them right the way back up with our block pallets. Which is also now looking really good. And while the terrain surrounding the river is turning out great, just gotta do the actual river itself. Yay, more digging, woohoo! Or not. I can be putting it off a little longer, right? Right. So let's get gathering some more blocks. First off, in the jungle, where I need both jungle leaves and some logs for fences to create some new custom trees along the river. And since I've started collecting some foliage bits, we might as well collect all the foliage bits, where next I need a refill on bushes and firefly bushes, where I really need to set up a farm for these soon. Another farm I would love is nether fungi, but for now I just want a few sprouts to break up all the green in the terrain. And I'm going to have to stop certain foliage bits from going, so just grabbing some string from my string farm over in the fishing village. Final thing, I'd like to hand place all the grass, which means I spent over 10 minutes straight cutting the lawn on top of this one mountain. Okay, actually almost the final thing. The ocean floor also needs a quick lawnmower service. And having brought this down, this should really add that final little bit of detail later to this entire area. For now though, let's grab our mud brick, brown stained glass, and jungle fences and gates, along with a bunch of jungle leaves. With these, we can bring up 2 brand new custom trees by the side of the river. And if you want to see where this project goes next, you might want to subscribe if you haven't already. As this, might I remind you, is still only the first part of me working towards starting my most ambitious project ever inside of Minecraft. But I don't want to think too much about that right now. We got a cool river going on. So let's get another 2 of these jungly river trees built up on the opposite side of the project, which I definitely think is also where they like. And our comment really goes a long way in helping me out, even if said comment just says no comment. And if those 4 trees weren't enough for you, let's get another 2 trees, but birch this time, extended up to break up the middle of the river. We're already just these trees in here add so much to the project, and well, we have so much foliage left to add and so much digging left to do. And we can work a little bit on that foliage, right? Let's grab some bushes and firefly bushes, and actually just realized I'm gonna need this too, probably some grass. To get started in this area, I want to continue bringing the stream down to the river's edge, extending its chute shape down with muddy mangrove roots and coarse dirt. Then grabbing a water bucket, running back up it to get the water in, as I need this for the next step. Which of course is foliage detail. Mainly grass, firefly bushes, and regular bushes, but also some sugarcane crops and small drip leaf around the river to give some more life to it. We're throwing in the actual proper rocks and some seagrass. This one section being sort of completed up is really nice. Granted, there is no foliage on this side, but that's because I'm not really going to tackle any of the terrain in this section between this river and that bridge, just because I want to wait until I actually decide to finish up this mountain here. But this looks really, really good at the moment. I definitely want to work a little bit more in this area here in a little bit. Maybe even bring in a bridge, as we do have our main pathway coming through this area that's going to be leading into the city and probably also into the farming region, because it feels a little weird if you're going to have to, well, one, either go through the city to exit over there, or you're gonna have to go out here and around to get to the farming region. Feels a bit inefficient, but I have been putting it off for long enough. I think it's finally time to get our pickaxe and shovel back out and get to digging. But first, I think it's time to welcome you into my creative world, where I figured I'd just show you how I'm going to shape out this river. Where the first thing I've done is define the two edges with the mud here along this side, and little spoilers this side as well. Where what we can now do here with Axiom is create a tool mask for cyan concrete, so that we can only change this block and not all the mud that's already defining the edge of the river. First of all, I tried by hand at creating the shape of the river using the path tool in Axiom, but I wasn't having much success with this, so I quickly moved on to the elevation tool and ended up just dragging along the entire river, lowering a dip in the cyan concrete along the entire one, making sure it steps down about one block every block, which after some smoothing and just tweaking by hand, I've got a shape which I'm actually quite happy with. And once again, going back to that tool mask that we have that just selects cyan concrete, I'm going to pick mud and just paint over the entire river to cover the mud floor. We're back inside of the actual world now. We can get to the actual digging part, where I wanted to tackle the area over by the stream first, but I messed up the schematic, so instead moving a bit along to the section beyond the beacon, where it's really all about getting into the grind and digging, tackling another 50 plus blocks of the river in one fell swoop, which is starting to take shape. And I went back and sorted out my schematic blender to, of course, clear away that furthest away section, as it was bugging me quite a bit, having started in the middle of the river and not at one end. Which, with that done, I think we're about halfway on this dig, at least. Pretty rough at the moment, I won't lie, but it's a start. And before we get more digging, I'm currently down to my final pickaxe. Yeah, all of these are fully enchanted here, and I've broken all of them. Except that one. And well, I could enchant these as well, but I haven't. And before we break this one as well, I'd like to set up a new XP farm. We're not going to need much for this. Just going to grab ourselves a shulker box of stone. A few other bits and bobs that I already have in storage. Just some leaves that we got over here, and that should be mostly everything that we need to make this Enderman farm. Yep, I have a few overworld farms, and I think it's finally time for another dimensional farm. Just need one more thing, which is a magenta wool, and I really need to fix the storage in here, but not today. That's a future stamp problem. Yep. For now, let's get into the end and worry about getting down as far as possible in here to maximize our spawns farm. Could have gone like a block further, but don't think I'll notice a change in rates. Instead, getting ourselves a bit over 128 blocks away from the end island, where we can start to build a platform where we will be standing and farming the XP with some hoppers leading into droppers hooked up to an observer clock. Above this, a layer of blocks along with carpets on top of that to stop Endermen from teleporting there. From this, we can extend up 13 rings, spaced 2 blocks apart to get up to the correct height of the spawning platform, which I'm extending in up here. Eventually, I'd love to make this entire thing a little prettier, but that's for a future end transformation and not today. Created a little box for ourselves right up here at the top, and if you'd like to build this farm for yourself, the original design is by iJevin, and I used a tutorial by More Things, which I'll leave a link to both them in the description. Now, I've got 2 ender pearls at the moment, so let's just see if we can get that 5% chance. Nope, luckily, I happen to have found myself in possession of an Enderman farm. Should be nice, should be able to get a couple of ender pearls pretty easily, or not. Oh, these get locked. Anyways, 16 should be enough to get this to spawn, right? Yeah. Oh, and we got exactly on chance. It's a 1 in 20 and we got it on the 20th. Just gotta get you in there and then get this guy centered. And there, we're removing that block. Should cause him to fall down. All we should need to do, got a carpet in above that. And ooh, should that have been one further down? Maybe not. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's going to matter because that's going to run in and then those are going to run in. And if there's any touch on the ledge, that'll get pushed in with the next wave, wouldn't it? Well, that is working. Oh, and it is so very loud. Quickly, before we actually repair tools, I'd like to just create a little save spot for me to actually place down a shulk box and make sure that I don't actually lose it, because that would suck. So, you're just like a little box, although I kind of want to extend this out just a little bit. In here, I feel pretty safe to place my shulker box of netherite tools at least. And I don't really care about these. If they were to end up in the box, that would be fine. Now, let's get all of these tools repaired up. 1 eternity later. Still a bunch of broken tools in this chest, and I'm also still getting XP, but all of the tools that are fully enchanted are repaired up. And well, I should spend the time getting the rest of these sorted now, because I should have the emeralds from my sugarcane farm. Not now. Let's leave that in the chest here, and let's fly on back. So back at the river, it's time to once again dig. Yay, for only like the 10,000th time today. Okay, not really, but it has been a lot of digging, and well, I like digging, so it's not that bad getting this final section cleared up. And well, I say final section, but we still have a bit more to dig over this way. And well, eventually I need to dig this entire lake to fix that up. But I am still waiting with that because I do want to figure out what I'm going to build over on this side. And well, if I change the size of the lake, I'm going to have to redo all the digging and it just doesn't really seem worth it at the moment. But we'll get back to this section here once we've got the rest of the river filled in. Now, I want to kind of take advantage of a unique situation we found ourselves in. Let's just get this dropped off real quick. And as you can see in here, I already have a shulk box entirely filled with diorite, which is amazing. And all of the andesite we've used for all the cliffs today has also been only from this dig, and I still have nearly another shulk box of it. And if we just look through this, there is so many just granite, diorite, and andesite patches that it feels stupid just to leave them now that we have them uncovered and beacons set up, rather than to have to search for them in caves in a designated area. So I think just returning home here quickly, we can grab ourselves another 9 shulk boxes to get started, and it's currently 10 a.m. so I'm gonna spend the next hour and see how much of this I can gather up, or if I run out, I'll let you know how long it took. Spending the first part of this hour, I want to hard focus on andesite, as it's probably the block I'm going to need the most of, considering all the mountains I want to build up in this world. But I also will definitely be using diorite and granite, so once the supply of andesite ran out, I started gathering those as well, and the piles just kept leading to more and more piles. Where it's now just after 11 a.m. and we've got 30 shulker boxes of andesite all filled up, and well, we have a 4th one over there that's pretty much filled. We've got a box and a half of granite and a box and a bit over half of diorite. And well, there is so much more that I could spend even another hour, probably 2 hours clearing out here, as whenever I cleared away one pile, it just led to more like this. So many blocks, and there's even more in there. I'm pretty sure there's more over, yep, down there. Also, another cool thing, I have now officially filled up an entire shulker box with coal ore just from this dig. And well, if digging out the finer bits of the river didn't bring me up to 150,000 blocks mined today, the 2 pickaxes I broke just now clearing away andesite and diorite definitely did. So let's switch up and finally get the riverbed in with all of our mud we gathered earlier. Where this is honestly just worse than digging. Running around, just placing the same block over and over again to fill it out. But it's so worth it. Decided to switch it up a bit and get the edges along with the splashes of coarse dirt and muddy mangrove roots, as placing in all of the mud was getting a tad bit repetitive. But we've got to go back to it to complete up this entire riverbed, stretching along our entire river, of course. where I've run out of mud. And I say that happily because it means I don't have to place more mud right now. Yay! But it does mean I have to go grab some more mud. I honestly don't know what happened. My only assumption is that whenever the schematic messed up earlier when I was digging and stuff, I must have calculated the amount of mud I needed. So we need to go get some more, which means off to the mangrove swamp we go. Oh, isn't Boxy beautiful? Also, I turned on vanilla clouds halfway through this video, and honestly, I kind of like them. I've been playing with better clouds for probably the past 2 years, and something about these clouds just makes it feel very Minecrafty. I definitely don't need 2 shulkers of mud, but with all the transformation I want to do to the lake and the fact that the river needs to be dug even further in the future to reach the harbor, I'm going to be using it at some point. So definitely a worthwhile investment of time. Returning back to the river, let's grab some of the mud we just gathered and wrap up the final bit of the river over by where I want to bring in a bridge quite soon. Our next order of business is just going to be filling in the water, and well, it's going to start with that one. And I need a second water bucket. This is going to be fun. Continuing on, this is really the only viable way to do this, or well, maybe it isn't. I've not actually tried using ice, but something about this just feels and seems faster, as breaking all of the ice feels like a bit of a pain. I've got to give that a try in the future. It has unfortunately started raining, but this is looking so good. Oh, having the water in is amazing. And it's given me some inspiration to build a boat. Oh yeah, Blocky's gonna be happy about that one. And just looking through my chest, I actually had everything I'll need. Perfect. Don't even need to do any more material gathering. Oh well, nearly everything I need. Just gotta do a quick other stop over here at the wool farm once again. And I need 15 wools and 2 banners. I think this spot here, pretty close to the stream entering, will be the perfect spot for our little boat. And well, I'm starting to build it up on the diagonal with spruce as our main hull with a polished and chiseled tough lining on top. Figured this be a very good spot here, as we're gonna have that bridge over there, and I would love this to be visible from that, and as well as coming down the road once we bring this side back. But I'd also like to get some details in, and I was thinking we could just throw in a couple of dark oak bottoms here around the entire ship. It's really small boat. Where the tuff is nice, but I was thinking we could bring in a little bit more color into our build. Bringing out a little bit of copper, bringing that around, and we can get in a little bit of a waxed in there. Trim that off, bringing this up a little bit here towards the front and out, and just finishing off with something like that. Actually, this is a little flat, isn't it? Oh, what is this called? It's not a capstan, a beam? I don't know boat terminology. I haven't played Sea of Thieves in a while. I'm missing a fence, but we'll get that soon. Now let's just continue this, where we can just throw in some details here at the back and craft up another one. This we can just continue up here a little bit. We should have gotten some dirt blocks for this part, but oh well. More, and then some trapdoors just like that. Back up here, what I usually end up doing is a trapdoor as the capstan, and it's not really going to work on the diagonal. So I was thinking if we just substitute that for a jungle sign, where you're definitely gonna have to use your imagination, but that is a whole lot better than something sitting on either this axis or this one. With the main part of our boat in, let's work on the mast, bringing up a polished deep slate one that moves into dark oak. We'll get back to the fence gates for now. Some spruce to create some supporting bits for our sails, which also need to be controlled, and for that, grindstones and jungle fences to act as some ropes for the boat's sail. Finally, a tucked in sail at the back and a second sail that isn't tucked away at the front, allowing it to sail through the river. And okay, first of all, I gotta give a massive thank you to Blocky for allowing me to use one of his boats for inspiration of this hull. And well, I think it turned out great. I'm actually really pleased with it, and I definitely want to start trying to make out some boats of my own here soon. But yeah, the dark oak fence up there, I added in as sort of connecting to these grindstones that you can see up there. And I know it looks a little messy up close because at a diagonal, when you're building at such a small scale, a lot of blocks are floating. And also I try my very best to make this the sail still have a little dent on the side. And well, I think this turned out really, really well. It also would probably make sense if I have some extra jungle fences just to connect this down, maybe like that. No, actually it would be connected on this side, right? Because the wind is coming from that side. Yeah, I know a thing or two about it. Sailing. I haven't done it in a few years, but nonetheless, yeah, I think that looks better because now this sail is actually connected to something and wouldn't just fly away. But I think all of the little gaps and stuff is fine because if we just fly away a little bit up to where our path is gonna go, seeing that boat down there from up here, it's just gonna add so much life to the area. As you walk over the bridge, oh yes, yes. I mean, this makes me definitely want to get on this bridge. So, well, back to material gathering for me then. Had to rummage through the resources we've gathered, and, well, I had a lot of granite, and I figured we'd use some of the coal ore that I've gotten. But I need even more resources for this bridge. And, well, I am chipping away at my shulker pile outside, so might as well look through them to see what blocks I can get from here. Where I can actually throw back either 9, 12 shulker boxes back in my chest. And we now only have this many out here. They are, however, filled to the brim, except this one. We do need some more bits though, and I need to restock on wheat, so let's get our wheat field harvested. And then down into the mine, as I just need a tiny bit of deep slate to make some polished deep slate. Where we've got pretty much everything I need here for this bridge now, but I am missing one more thing. And for that one, we've got to fly south. Actually, I'm missing 2 things. And on our way, I was thinking we just stop by the river as I need a little bit more brick. And while I still don't have masons set up, and I've added a new thing to the milestones where I can only get a new villager every 500 days. A new profession every 500 days. And we're still 400 days away until we can get Mason villagers. So, yep, I'm gonna be mining a lot of clay. Okay, that there should be enough for now at least, and, well, a little extra indeed. Then, across the sound, I also just need a tiny bit more mangrove to craft a few trapdoors to use in the bridge for a splash of color. And I, out of pure muscle memory, just jumped on Rumble, which we can go ahead and head on down in this direction because that's going to be really lovely to ride Rumble across the brand new bridge we're about to build. And I haven't taken it out for a ride today, and, well, he's probably getting a little bored inside. Well, not that he was inside, but you get what I mean. But currently, even if we had a bridge, Rumble wouldn't be able to reach it as the path just ends. So, grabbing our pathing blocks, let's continue the path down towards the river, where I'm leaving those blocks in our boxes and grabbing some polished deep slate to start creating the arch of our bridge. I think is a good start there. This should be high enough to make sure that the boat doesn't clip. Maybe the candle and maybe like the top fence goes through theoretically, but that's not going to be visible. It's going to be fine. It's just far enough away. Just don't count it. But before we move along with this bridge, I think we've got to fix up the final bit of terrain here. First, I've got the final detailed out cliffs to add in on the river side of the bridge to complete up the custom cliff face spanning across the south edge. Where moving on to the opposite side of the bridge, I'd like to just dig it out a tiny bit more to make more room for this side of the bridge. Where I'm getting a really cool idea for the continuation of this project, which is going to involve a lot of digging. Not as much, granted, not as much digging because, well, it's going to go right in here and we're already at water level, which is a great start. But it is also going to be reaching all the way out to the ocean because we need to start off with the harbor region, or, well, at least the side of the harbor. I don't really know the scope of the project yet, but it's going to be after this bridge, and I'm currently planning it out in creative, and it's looking very, very cool. I'm very excited for it. But for now, let's focus on this bridge, where I did just open this up a little bit here because I do want to bring in the bridge on this side as well, of course, as the other one. And well, I can't really do that if it's completely blocked off. So the reason we grabbed some brick and things earlier is because that's what I want to use next, along with a bunch of granite and our copper bulbs, where we just start extending up a good old classic brick block pattern here with some granite and dripstone extended into the mix. And also just for some this color here, we can bring in some mud bricks with packed mud. Then using our polished granite stairs, we can just create a little bit of an opening in the wall right here, where let's just get the rest of this extended in. And on the inside, the reason I have so many copper bulbs is because I think we just fill out this entire space with them, where I just want to activate the 2 on the bottom and the 2 on the top, which gives us that little bit of light there, but it also just doesn't fill up the entire space and still makes it feel a little more interesting. I did play around with the idea of adding some banners on here, but I just didn't think it made that much sense because you're already sort of passing through the main city to get into this region, and it's not like you're entering the region. So I think this should add that special color I was looking for. It's also a bit smaller than a detailed banner would be, and I do have limited space between the arch and cliffs surrounding the bridge. So banners will have to be details on a future bridge instead, for now, getting the rest of the walls extended up. Where I might as well also fill up the arch, which is a bit of an interesting one, as the bridge is diagonal and the arch round at a different angle. But I think it's turning out alright with the say towards the bottom and andesite stone for some lighter bits. Also added in our coal blocks here, as it's just a perfect block for underneath a bridge, and I really like how it just blends in there. And yeah, it was definitely a little tricky to figure out, but I think it looks good enough. Let's grab our polished tuff. We of course gotta get some lodestones because this is a bridge after all, and I'm building it. So stuff what we can do is we can start extending in a little brim of dirt, I was gonna say, but we're using polished tuff stairs for this one. But we can bring in our first lodestone. Let's bring in our second one right over here, 2 blocks apart, as there isn't actually a middle point on this bridge. Oopsie, my mistake. I think I've also started a mob farm in all the cliffs, but that's gonna be a future stamp problem. Above this layer then, I think we use our chisel tough bricks, and then we connect up some mud brick walls just like this. And the reason I brought around our brown stained glass is just so that we can bring that in there to extend this, and also just connect it up to this, so that should remove that gap. I mean, it's not going to remove it fully when you're walking on the bridge, but my hope is it's going to at least remove it from when you're looking at the bridge from the side. And also here through the middle, we can bring in some chisel tuff. Top of this, we then come in with our granite slabs and our mangrove trapdoors along the mud brick walls for that splash of red, because it is a pretty red bridge already with the granite, which has a nice color. But I think we can just add this little highlight here towards the top. Got that in on the other side as well. And final thing now is just our walkway with a mix of tough bricks, granite, and mud to complete that up. We're hopping on to Rumble. The beacons are a eyesore for sure, but we can now ride across this bridge, and I even added in just a little bit of path here on the opposite side. That's eventually gonna continue up into the farming region, but I don't exactly know where it's gonna go from here, as I need to figure out this area completely first. And oh, that boat down there is just like, it's so good from up here. Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Let's get the beacons cleared away, as I'm all done digging for today, and I'd like to see the project without them in the way. Which, even though it's raining, is looking so much better. I also just connected it up right over here and extended it on the mud a little bit on this side. We do have a bit more digging to do here once we tackle this lake, but that's a future problem because I took the bacon away. Oh no, how sad. Oh no. But we are moving into the final stages here, where I need to grab some coarse dirt, don't I? Yeah, there's no coarse dirt here. That right there, yeah, makes them look so much more grounded into the terrain. Perfect. So for our final touches, vegetation, where I'm running along the edge of the river, adding in all sorts from sugarcane, leaves, mangrove roots, some small and large strip leaf, along with the every so often bit of crop to just fill out the space and make it look alive. We're having ran across the edges here, adding in some seagrass, and I've only added it at the top bit so that it looks deeper in the middle where you can't really see the bottom of the ocean. River. Anyways, flying on up, this new river edge is looking so much better, at least if you're comparing it to that side and this side. Oh, I really like it. Now, just one thing remains, and that is the shulker of grass that I gathered earlier. I need to place all that by hand, along with all these bushes. And while both gathering the grass and then now placing it down is fairly time consuming, it makes all the difference. Bone meal is great, but not only do I not love the way flowers generate from it, it is also way easier to accidentally create blobs of grass, whereas hand placing gives me a lot more control. cleaning up the shulkers and chests, and with our foliage in, this project has turned out absolutely amazing. We've got to just take a quick look back at how this area looked only 150 in-game days back, and how it looks now. It's just an insane difference. Where, yep, we are almost at day 1100. I started this project back at day 950 before I even went to the end. And we've spent a lot of it. Only since after going to the end, I've spent another 20 hours in the world. And before that, probably another like 5 or maybe even 8. A lot of time. And that's not even to mention all the creative planning. It's been a lot. But it has been, oh, so worth it, because I am absolutely loving how this area is turning out. Not to mention that it is the perfect start to get us going towards building this mega city that I want to build. And well, I am excited to see how this entire project turns out. Before ending off, I'd like to just take a peek at some builds from the community, where you can have your build featured in the segment in the future by joining the Discord down below and posting pictures in the Post Your Builds channel. But that is it for today, and thank you so much to all of my supporters, and thank you to you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.